big work to do on our budget tonight. We're going to really just look at it primarily from all the budget interests. We reviewed those last week. I think I saw a couple of late ones that came in, which is not a problem. We'll just address them probably at the very end and see how those go together. I'm going to be sharing with you kind of the collective summative score of all the ratings that we received from everyone. And what that's going to allow us to do is to say, start with what we think are the priorities and put those up at the top. So, it's just kind of coming in late here into today. So, as close as these meetings work together, it was difficult to get to where we are. So, what you can see up on the screen, we've got, this is the order that they are on your list right now. And I've put a number, not necessarily the row number that you see in Google Sheets. Column B, you see a number where it says 1, because we're going to be referring to that number, so we're going to help Beth to say, cut this, paste this, move this here or there. So you're going to keep fun. So I just want you to, if you want to, on yours, you can copy that the value in column C next to each of those. If you want to see that all in one place, you can do this. We just got those final values. So for example, for athletic director stipends for teachers, that had a value of 104. The very next one down is 112. So if you want to copy those, you can. And then we will have them here up on the screens so you can see. The only thing I would say is I'm going to count on you all not needing this program interest description level. So we went over those last week. You all read them when you did the scoring. You have access to that information on your sheets of paper. Beth, to start things just so visually so we can see this, will you highlight all of the rows and then just squish them up so they're tighter? So what we really want to be able to see is the budget title, and we want to see the dollar amount, and we're going to see that squish so we can see multiple things on a page at a time. Are you following what I'm asking you to do? Great. All right. So we are going to just start by with what we see up on the screen. You see what the ratings are for those that we're going to look at first. And okay, that might be a little tight, a little bit farther apart. We're just going to look at the first 5 or 6. We're going to get those in the order that we agree on, and we'll use these ratings of your total points off inside to make those recommendations. So now that's better. Just give a little more space between it, and then we're going to increase the size of that so that we can see it. Sorry, Brittany. Nope,
I just can't get in when I go that way.
We're glad you're here.
How's that?
Good, and now just increase the screen size to like 125, 130%. Because really all we care about is like the first 4 columns, what's going to be on the screen.
I guess it helps if I increase the screen size when I'm using the right computer.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Oh, there you go. Now I think we're good for the business.
Okay.
Okay, so I know you've had a chance to look at them. We're going to talk about just the first 4 to start with. And so if we need to have some further conversation about any of these things that are in the first 4, numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4 in column B is what I'm referring to. If you look at them, you can see that you all rated increase in guest teacher rate of pay as the highest among those. Next would be athletic restoration, athletic director stipends, and the stipends for student teachers. So that would be the order that I would naturally put them in based on what you are saying. So I just want to confirm what you are thinking there around the top choice being increase in guest teacher pay rate of pay, which there is a change. I showed you when you originally saw this, you saw a larger dollar amount. We are actually even wondering if it might be a 0 cost. The reason why is when we cut 20% of the days off in a 4-day school week, but we raise the rate of pay, will that actually even out? So we plugged in a smaller amount. I think it had a $70,000 when you saw it. And we plugged in $10,000 just to give it a volume for starting here, but really the more we thought about it, we were wondering if it might actually be zero. So just knowing that, that's additional information than what you had when you did the scoring. So I would say to you now, this is kind of how we're gonna play the game, is are you interested? You're gonna show me by kind of a show of hands, thumbs up, thumbs down, or I can live with it. If we have a clear picture of conversation, then we'll engage in conversation. People will say pros and cons for what they're proposing that we either change or where we would sequence, or perhaps some modification to the budget interest. So that would be fair game also in how we would approach this. So I'll just start you off. So for the one that's for line 4, increase in guest teacher rate of pay, would you agree for the ones you can see on the screen, would that move to the top of the list out of the 4 that you see there for numbers 1, 2, 3, and 4? Show me what you're thinking with that. Okay, looking around the room, we don't have any discussion on that. So what you're gonna do, Elizabeth, Beth, she'll be mad if I say Elizabeth, you are going to just cut the whole line that says increase in teacher rate of pay, which is, and move that to the very top. Great. And then what, Beth, you're going to do in the background is you're just going to take that beginning budget that we started with, minus 10,000, and now you can see in column J, you're going to start to see how much budget is remaining for us to play.
Well,
So
where
while
did
she's
it go?
doing that, let's look at the next ones. 1, 2, and 3. Rated at 104, 112, and 99. So athletic restoration. Is anybody thinking something besides athletic restoration which should go to the number 2 spot?
I have a question.
Yes.
So, because of the 4-day week, that was the one thing, like, I totally was like on board with then, like adding back the cheerleading, adding back the sports we lost. But where I was concerned was the 18 B team, because I didn't know on the times, like, if we're already getting out of school later, how we would have an A game and then a B game and then adding in boys so I could see adding back boys volleyball, but having just an 18 for girls and boys that was my
Like
concern.
a modification to the restoration. Okay.
I was wondering that same thing when I was scoring.
Okay.
And I also didn't actually score that one because for some reason I was under the impression if it said override required, then we were good. And that money was already taken out of.
So it might have gotten even more points had you scored it.
Yeah, because I was like, well, I thought we had to do this. So does this even need money?
So yes and yes. So we do need to how we use $1.1 million of our dollars of the total change in revenue from last year to this year to next year. How we use that, we have to preserve $1.1 million for the things that are in the override. It does have some broad pieces because we've got restoration of the extracurricular. Anything that is connected to our special areas, our champs, and then also things that are connected to recruitment retention, which is staff compensation. So that's pretty broad. So it's not going to be hard. Those and class sizes. Those are all things that we'd be thinking about anyway. So it's not a hardship. It's a blessing to be able to have that. But how we go about restoring it doesn't have to be to exactly the same as what it was. It's where the money will be used to be spent on extracurricular activities for kids. So yes, we do need to spend something on it. I think our voters are counting on the fact that something's going to be better than what it was this year. And if you, Christy, to your point, and other people are agreeing with you, we could add a different line in here. So that's if you follow along. I think I'm hearing an interest to where it talks about athletic restoration. Why don't you add in a line 1 point, call it 1.5, and we'll call it athletic restoration, just cheerleading.
Will those, adding back, because to add back the cross country, like some of the ones we lost, but I don't know about having an A-team and team, because I just didn't know if that was feasible. I didn't know enough about with our new schedule, what that takes.
All right, so the athletic restoration will be with A and B team, and athletic restoration with only A team. Would that be a way to describe it? Okay. I think we're gonna have to be in the background here thinking about how much that would cost and what the difference is. We did some more thinking on the athletic restoration, and we actually thought it would be closer to $70,000 to restore it all, because I don't think the $42,000, if that's what it was, I don't think it included referees, and we've started paying our referees more post-pandemic, and I think we'd be hard pressed to tell them, oh, you're getting a pay cut now to come back. Because I think we're just thinking it'd be right on 70,000. So it's possible that maybe the 42,000 might be the 18 only, as an estimate, without doing all the work. Is that okay? All right. All right. So between those two, let's have some conversation around which one would we be prioritizing. So I think I hear you prioritizing it not because of money, but because of the ability to the times and the schedules to put that work with a 4-day week. Dave, do you have thoughts on that? Lindsay, you have a question about it?
It's gonna be a problem with soccer.
Because of daylight hours? Yeah, and I did hear some conversation that, it might not be on the traditional season time of year, but we could work things out where, things that are, when it's dark, or things that you utilize a multi-purpose room for instead of being outside, some of that kind of thing.
Two that goes with, maybe the other one, the athletic representation. So if it's longer days, those 4 days, and then, games, that's the I have a say about that position trained, but everyone else doesn't, so that makes it very long.
And that can be part of the restoration. Okay. All right, so when you look up there and you see, it starts with interest in guest teacher rated pay. So far, that's our top position. Next, going down, we have the thing we were talking about as being maybe the next priority, just because of how you stored it, was athletic restoration. For now, do you want to move lines 2 and 1.5 up?
So tell me if you support that. Okay, can you follow what I'm asking you to consider? Moving lines 2 and 1.5 up above the athletic director stipends. Show me by your thumbs. Okay, we support that. So Beth, did you follow that?
Mhm.
Okay. All right, so now just take a look at the next couple that are on your list.
All right.
And we don't have to do it by the way your points came out, right? Because now as you have time to talk about it and think about it and offer more ideas, our priority order could change. So I just want you to feel comfortable to say what you think it really ought to be. All right, will somebody else this time propose which one we should elevate up next? So look, can you scroll up and hide? So go past 4 and 1. Let's just see a couple more down so they can see the next 4 to see which ones we would elevate next. Okay. So now we have stipend for student teachers. Resource teachers gathered some more information, so I want to just check the thinking here with you, because I know that Heather, that you submitted the resource teachers. We have already in our budget for resource teachers adding 3 additional special education teachers for next year to support the growth and some of the overcrowding in the classrooms. So that is already built into the budget for growth. And I just want to check before I say let's not score this one, if that supports your interest, because we've already got that in growth. We don't need to count it twice, is what I was thinking.
I don't know where those numbers would be going. So what campuses they would be going to, because I know Blue Horizons has high numbers, but I know our resource teachers are currently overloaded.
I'm in conversations with Kay and Jason right now to hopefully add that position in January, but I just have a couple more I's to dot and T's to cross because we're over our number.
So when we go over caseloads, we save money in our positions. And when we go over a class size or a caseload in special education, that triggers the approval to hire another position. When we can't hire another position, in other words, we can't find anybody, then we do have higher caseloads or we do have higher class sizes. And then what we do is we compensate our teachers for that additional workload in the meantime. That is not the ideal. Another option, even a better option than the compensation, is to hire an alternative, say, of hiring 2 paraprofessionals in lieu of a teacher. And so that is a different way to reduce class size to some extent in the caseload. It doesn't really help them with IEPs, but we pay them for extra IEPs they write also. So we have these mechanisms in place. Our struggle this year is just we haven't been able to hire the special education teachers. We could post them, we could budget for them, but we haven't been able to hire for them. So I'm thinking just what I can understand, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you wanted in this, that we've built that in to our at a different place in this budget than the budget interest priorities for growth and overcapacity. Is that okay then? All right. Then with your permission, I'm going ahead and delete this line just for clarity, or we can cut it and move it to the very bottom so people know we talked about it. Maybe let's do that so we don't lose anything we've talked about today. So Beth, we're going to the one that says line 5, these are bold numbers, not the actual row numbers. The line 5, the entire line, we're going to get my vocabulary correct. You're going to cut that row, move it to the bottom of the document, paste it at the bottom so we just hang on to it. While she's doing that, increased pay for reading interventionists, pay steps 15 or 20. We're going to see if we can sort those out too, of where we would want to place those. So let's first have a conversation about 15 or 20. We're not going to be doing both. So I think this is a consideration where that you've got something's got off kilter just now. So hit undo and try again.
Moved resource teachers down.
Yes, but it moved. You can see how it shifted. We've got the gray and the yellow should be lining up still. So I think it just shifted. So while she's doing that, the pay step increases. We currently have a hiring schedule that goes for up to 10 years for gen ed, for 15 years for special ed and instructional coaches. On the board agenda for Monday is for us to look at using this year's funding to increase it to 15 years. When we increase it to 15 years, if the board approves that, then at the same time, anybody that did not get honored for that when they were hired, if they're between 0 and 15 years of experience, they also would get a bump up so that we don't bring anybody in at the wrong time. To Mr. Bogart's point, this last time there were a few teachers that there's something off. Business services, when they did the 15-year analysis, they noticed those and they would right-size those people at the same time. And that is simply a correction that just needs to be made regardless of a budget interest. So that's something we will take care of this year. So I think my question to you is, I don't know what the board will do or not do with the 15 years. So I think it's a good idea for you all to prioritize that now and keep it in there. In the event they approve it, we'll take that out. That's already taken care of. It just gives us more capacity to do something else. That seem reasonable? So, all right. So think right now or have a conversation with people there. Around 15 or 20, you can see the difference in cost. And that cost is really just to right size our current employees. There is a little bit of a hidden cost for anybody else we'd be bringing in. So if you imagine if we were going to bring them in at the 10-year mark and now we bring them at the 20-year mark, whatever that difference in pay is, that's that's an additional increase that we really can't account for because we don't know who they are or if we really would have gotten them or not. That's just kind of that's just going to have to come out with how we balance out our budget later on. But the known cost was the cost to our current employees to right-size them. So essentially, we'd be saying some of our employees collectively, a subgroup of them, would share $40,000, or a little larger population of them might share $50,000 of right-sizing. So what do you think is in the district's best interest to go with the 40,000 for 15 years, the 50,000 for 20 years, also recognizing if you keep that budget increase smaller, you have room for other things. So it just is all in how you would prioritize things. Somebody want to propose something for us to respond to? What do you think is the best option? Okay, who thinks 15-year? Okay, roughly half. Who thinks 20? All right. I think I said sideways. Okay, let me try 15 years. Everybody votes this time. Thumbs up, sideways, or down. Anybody down? I don't see any down. So it looks like we can live with it or go with the 15 years. So preferring 15 years. I think I don't weigh in too much, but I think I support that because we can wait and see how it really affects us. And then if we like that and it works for us, next year we could come back with an opportunity to increase it further to give 20 years of experience. Does that seem reasonable? Okay, so with that, Beth, you're going to move row 8 to the very bottom. And then now you all are going to tell me where I should move the pay step increases up to. Do you want them where they currently are below reading intervention? Do you want stipend for student teachers moved down? Somebody tell me what we should be doing here.
I kind of felt like stipend for student teachers should be moved down. I know we're needing to bring people in, but I know it's a smaller amount also on the budget, but I just kind of didn't feel, I feel like we need to be increasing our reading interventionists so that we're not worrying about the students, that they're getting the support that they need, because we're still going to have to put a lot of support into a student teacher regardless. So that I kind of felt like that needed to be above it. Same with the pay scale. Like if you've been here 15 years, you should be above the student teachers.
Okay, so would you support then moving stipend for student teachers, which currently has 99 points, for conversation purposes? Shall we move that lower, Beth, than anything in column C that's at least down below all the ones that would be 100 points? Would that be reasonable? Yes. Okay. So Beth, do you understand what I'm asking you to do? Okay. And I heard you say in that interest also was to move up the 15 years. Does that move to the new number 3 position or the new number 4 position, or higher or lower? Okay. Okay. Tab up, tab down, that way it won't get away from you. Just click to go towards smaller numbers, Beth, not bigger numbers. Okay, so the 15 years, would you put that above athletic directors or below athletic directors, or below pay for reading interventionists? Where would you place 15 years?
I would move reading interventionists above director, and then the pay scale, and then the director. So I guess I would move director down below those two.
Okay, so say again what you're proposing. They're going to vote.
Okay, so I'm proposing to move athletic director below the pay scale 15. And so then that moves up reading intervention and reading and the pay scale 15.
Support that? I see nods, I see thumbs up. All right, Beth, you followed that? Yep. Good.
Tell me the next recommendation. Tasha?
Okay. Let me see if I can find it. Sorry. Okay, this would be. Are you calling your bold numbers the row?
Yes.
Okay, this would be row 31. Gifted EL, reading endorsement, SEI, whatever. I think this is definitely a recruitment and retention strategy. So I believe what this is actually asking for is that teachers would be paid for the endorsements that they obtain, regardless of if those students are in their classrooms. So the reason I'm advocating for this is because many of our teachers know that a way to increase their pay is to get additional endorsements. Therefore, they go to college or take courses to get those endorsements, but we're not paying those endorsements out unless they have gifted children in their classroom. Does that make sense? So, Christy, I'll just pick on you for a minute. So, Christy Mendoza has a gifted endorsement, let's say. She doesn't have any gifted children in her classroom. Currently, we do not pay her for her gifted endorsement. But when teachers are shopping for a district, they are looking at any incentives like, oh, well, do you pay me for this endorsement? Oh, I have a reading endorsement. Oh, I have a EL endorsement. That's additional compensation, I guess, I would say, for teachers. So I'm proposing that we move that out of the bottom 25.
You have to say where to.
Okay.
Do you have any idea roughly how much money that would look like? Or just like, I mean, I guess
It doesn't say.
determine like.
I think HR was trying to look and see how much that would be. It's,
Do we know approximately how many teachers would be affected by that? Ballpark?
I mean, HR would have to run every teacher with an endorsement.
And anybody that would be coming, but you're right, like it would make it more like, ooh, this district wants to pay me for what I have, I do want to go work for them, so I would support that.
This one wasn't in the document.
Okay, so I am proposing that we move that I'll say below the reading interventionist, line 11.
okay, so your proposal is to move it below 911 reading interventionists. You support that for a starter place? We'll try to get through all of these and then we'll have to look it over since you like it. I don't see any sense or, okay, you can make that move. Yeah.
How soon before we would know what the cost of that?
Well, I think they're going to have to, go through and see if we can have a way, I don't know that we have a way to pull a report on that rather than checking every single person's certification to know.
Because some teachers currently do get the payout.
Many who have it already are teaching. Connie teaches, she's already got gifted endorsement, she teaches gifted children, she's already getting that. It might be Kendra has an EL and, you know, she's teaching PE and she's not not currently getting it. Does she actually have some PE students that are ill? She does, but she might not be getting the endorsement. Those are the people we have to determine who they'd be to do that. So I don't think it's a lot. Let's put I would say 10 or 15,000 students. Honey's kind of nodding, like, I think that might be a reasonable thing. And the other part could be is if you all said, hey, it's going to be like a 25 or a 30, we no longer prioritize a copy, right? So you can come, part of that is your recommendation. If it's more than that, then we would do that.
We have instructional coaches that have those endorsements and they're not getting them either
Correct.
this year.
So it would be hires and or anybody who's already working. Okay. Could use another proposal.
Could we move line 17, the instructional coach increase, either to, above where the increased pay for reading interventionist is, or under it, or next to it?
So the column B, number 17, to, you said where, I'm sorry, I didn't even listen here.
Either right above the increased pay for reading interventionist or right below it. It's hard to pick which one is first.
Well, just pick one and they will respond. 'Cause
Okay,
we'll fine
above
tune this again.
line 6.
Okay, what do you say? Dave says yes. The rest of you say, Lindsay says yes. Okay, good.
I'm gonna speak up.
Yeah.
I would prefer it to be below that because I feel like the reading interventionist pay increase affects more students and provides us to bring in more certified people that are working with a larger number of students. Yes, the instructional coaches are working with the teachers who are then are in turn working with the students, but we really need to make sure that our reading gets solid in the little grades so we're not still dealing with it in the upper grades. So I would prefer it to stay just right below the reading interventionist.
Okay. Sarah had originally said either or. She picked one. She's saying a different spot. Do the rest of you support her adjustment by moving it down one? And live with that. All righty. Beth, did you track? Good. All right, another proposal.
You have to.
Just line number 19, because that came out of our school emergency certifications, and we really didn't have, like, if we got a stipend, because what we see currently at Rainbow Valley, we now have 6 emergency certification teachers, but we are requiring them to do everything a certified teacher does.
Okay, so I asked,
Get any they don't get 301, they don't get stipends, but we're still requiring them to do the same job as a certified teacher.
I'll have to check to see. So when I checked on the emergency certified teachers, they get paid like regular ed teachers. They're not on a substitute pay. So emergency certified teachers get paid. So I think you're saying
Maybe my my sub teachers that are in there. Okay.
it's your long-term substitutes. Long-term substitutes are on that pay, but emergency certified teachers are paid like teachers.
Okay. So then I'm talking about my subs, because that's 4 of them that we have then.
Okay. And so a long-term sub doesn't necessarily teach from here to the start of the year to the end of the year. So long-term subs are typically for a long-term period of time, which is typically like 10 days or more. So I don't know that we have any substitutes currently earning 301. I don't think they're eligible.
They can't earn 301, but where the frustration comes in is they're doing all the lesson planning, they're doing all the teaching, they go to all our PDs, and we require the same amount of work out of them as a certified teacher. So that's.
Okay, so
what we want to do is we want to keep them.
Sure.
Like that, we want them because we're training them in Liberty Way, so we want them to stay, but they're starting to get frustrated.
All right, so can you help be clear on what is the increase? So I think you're adjusting your budget interest. Now you're speaking to long-term substitutes, right? So long-term substitutes, what would be the change in compensation in addition to what we already prioritized higher with their change in rate of pay up there. Is there anything different that you're proposing? Because if there's no difference, then I would say we'd be moving this one down to the bottom because we've already done an increase of pay for substitutes.
Can you go up, Beth, so we can see?
Show line 2. There you go.
Do you see that? Right. Okay. You weren't here, Steph.
So sorry.
But do you see that increase in guest teacher rate of pay?
Okay. Or could we do a stipend, but I wouldn't even have any idea like what would be fixed.
So if we increase their pay, they're really staying at the same salary-ish. I know I'm using rough numbers, but they're still going to then end up working on those, flex days too. So I would almost support, a flat stipend of 2 or 3. I mean, they really do work, and a lot of them we hire for the whole year. We start and end the year with them. So could it be, $2,000 stipend, and it can be prorated just to honor the fact that they do conferences and meet with parents and.
I would like something like that. Like if we could say like, oh, if your long-term situation, you get this percentage amount of it. Because something could change. Oh, you found a teacher. Yay. Sorry, you're gone. Which isn't always that nice, but I wouldn't want to say everybody gets 2,000 and then people back out.
What is the difference between we bring somebody on and they're emergency certified, and then they're the teacher the rest of the year? If they become that teacher of record and they have, I guess, maybe a terminating contract, because that's what, if we bring them halfway, they get a terminating contract at the end of the year, but they are treated like a teacher with all the compensation, all the expectations. If somebody is a long-term substitute, and it truly is going to be, you're going to start in the middle of September and you're going to go to the end of the year, then I think that's perhaps where principals need to assign them as the teacher of record and take them out of the classification of long-term
They
substitute.
don't have the requirements they're in their classes, so they're.
Why can't they be emergency certified and then be treated the way the emergency certified teachers
They
are?
don't have those requirements yet. They're in school at the time that they're taking it. Like I have a
For
teacher
the long term, for the
in
long.
school, and this is her second year in the program with us as a teacher, but she's getting paid.
Okay, so we're starting to design like a whole model, which is kind of tough to do in this setting. I hear the interest for doing something for long-term substitutes that really are teacher of record, and how can we compensate them as if they were emergency certified teachers in the same way? Yes? Which I don't know has a budget interest.
Because they don't have the, there's not the same degree level, but I just wonder if there needs to be something extra for the responsibility of you're the teacher of record, even though you're not the teacher of record.
Okay, so let me say this. How we do it, how do we get there? I think we could work on as a team of how we get there. I'm not sure it actually has a budget impact because we have budgeted for a full-on teacher in the classroom. So the fact that we're paying somebody less than that is truly a budget savings in reality. So I'm thinking if we could keep your budget interest there, but assign a $0 to it and just say that is kind of an employee interest to be able to give them better working conditions or compensation. Is that reasonable? Yes. Okay. So Beth, assign $0 to Stephanie. Remind her which number we're talking about.
It was number 19.
Number 19. So for number 19, you're going to assign $0 and change the language to say permanent. Long-term substitute teacher.
And you want to probably take out then the emergency cert
and take
emergency long-term sub teacher.
Okay. And she just said to take out the language emergency certification, just long-term. Okay. I think we solved that one. Yes?
Thank you.
Great.
Couldn't you just address it with the step rate? More so. So you got you're already addressing it, and yeah, but you could address it differently. You could just say that if they're working 100 days, you pay them more, right? I mean, we are essentially have some teachers on our campus who have a 2-year degree. Let's be honest. They're enrolled in a program to get a teaching cert. We're not going to find anybody else. but we want to compensate them. So just compensate them in the subpay. Just say, instead of making the 175 for a long term, can't you, you've already budgeted the money for a full-time teacher. Just give them a different rate of pay.
We do.
Not enough, is what we're saying.
We could add the Fridays.
Yeah,
as a
their
paid-
daily rate is not anywhere close. I've been in here district for a long time, and we're not paying that much more than what I made 30 years ago. So what I'm saying is you could raise that rate.
Okay, I still think it's a zero budget impact. So I think we could put a $0 there. And again, how we solve that interest, I hear there's support for trying to do something about that issue. And we support that too. So I think we can get that done. I love the $0 ones.
Me too.
All right. Give me another interest.
I have one. Line 11, reading interventionist from 1.5 to 2. Blue Horizons, I would like to see that moved up. Line 8, line 7. Just thinking about, we are already a very large campus. It's going to continue to grow. We haven't been able to find a full-time, or excuse me, extra half-time all year. So I think that would be something that would be more enticing and just more helpful, kind of based off of our data. We have a lot of, we have more of a transient area. We have kids that have a lot of needs. So I think that would make a huge difference just across K-8 on our campus.
Okay. You're suggesting to move it from, it's currently at the 18 spot. Well, it's going to be line 18 wherever we go, but where would you move it now?
What did I just say? Line
Line-
11, right?
It's at line 11, right? Yeah. Right now. It's at, oh no.
It's on line 11 on the sheets. And then I'm
It's at line 10 right now. Okay. Up to 7.
And what would they be just after which one?
Pay increase 15 year.
Just after pay increase for 15 year.
Is that going to be included with the growth for the school anyway, since they are getting bigger? Will that just be a neutral because of budgeting for growth?
Not at this time. I guess I would say if I looked at Blue Horizons, we can't increase all of these kinds of positions because they're the biggest, but in looking at in kind of an equity among schools, I say if you increased one of them up and that Blue Horizons said that was most important. So if I say to Blue Horizons, there's one on here for a math interventionist, just for Blue Horizons. So I would say, my recommendation to you would say, pick between those two, how you prioritize those two, and advance it to where you think it should fall in there, but don't pick both. So in the same way, I'll have the same conversation about a district growth positions also. We're not going to be able to pick all of them. We've tried to think, how can we start to consolidate some and find some other budgets?
I do have a question too, because I know we have we have two reading interventionists at Rainbow. One is paid through a grant, and then we have one who is split between Las Brisas and Freedom, paid through a grant. Do we know if that grant is going to continue, where we can maybe move around based off data or numbers?
Right. And Tasha, I'll let you respond to the grant question.
Next year would be our final year for that grant. So anyone who has a reading interventionist that is funded out of ESSER funds, next year is the last year for that. Then if we don't figure out what to do for our funding cliff with that, then it would go back to what is paid out of title.
So does that potentially mean that one of them could be split then between Blue and Freedom, for example, next school year through the grant?
Yes.
Does it change what you're recommending?
It doesn't change what I'm recommending, but it changes the budget interest, the increase.
So say more.
So it would we would be having to add another 0.5 to make it full time. Or we could just shift based off numbers and data and where the need is most, and have someone who's currently part-time roll over into a full-time. For example, last year we had a split interventionist at Liberty and Rainbow, and then that comboed this year, and now it's 2 full-time at Rainbow.
Okay. All right. So when you think about the change in budget, is it a half-time change or is it a full-time change by what you're proposing?
It should only be a halftime change because the halftime is already posted right now.
Okay. So if the 1.5 to 2.0 part is incorrect, we would just say increase reading interventionist with increase 0.5 reading interventionist is what the new title would say, and that would be accurate. And then the amount should remain the same because that it still should be the half amount, which it already is. So where it's placed, where were you proposing it be placed?
I think
In
I said
priority.
line 8.
The actual spreadsheet?
Yes.
Or the, yes. So
Yeah, I'm looking at the
yeah, okay.
live one now.
So Beth, do you track that? The actual spreadsheet number, not our black bold line numbers. The line numbers I did for you all because you had to be able to keep track of what we're talking about here. But where she's placing it could be there. All right, so do you support that? So let's say what's before or after that. So scroll up a little bit higher so we can see a little bit more. I see 10. Let's see if we can see 9, 8, and 7. Okay, so 7 is athletic director stipends, reading interventionist 0.5, and we haven't moved extra specials or extra champs anyplace else, so we haven't prioritized those things. So do you support after line 8, after the reading interventionist for her 0.5? Okay. Tasha, you nodded no.
I'm sorry, I was on the wrong line.
Okay. Okay. So I got all yeses then. All right. Okay, good. She's like shaking her head like, okay, what did we miss here? All right. Okay. He's suggesting moving it above the athletic director stipends. Does anybody else support that? Okay, we've got yeses on that, so just shift it one more up. Okay. Extra specials teachers per school, extra champs classes, price tags of $406,000 and $290. I think I can read that. So the extra specials teacher per school, that's essentially 1 per school. It could be for champs. For example, if you wanted to add computer science or you wanted to have 2 PEs. So you've got an extra teacher. That's per school, or if you are increasing the champs classes with an extra period per week, then that has a slightly smaller price tag. So what that would mean is every kid would have specials every day, but on one of the 4 days, the child would have a double special period. Teachers would get a double prep. We'd have to also give our special areas a double prep on some days for equity, and those have price tags of kind of 400 and almost 300. Where would you position those? Let's try to, do we want to pick one or the other first and move one all the way down? Let's pick one or the other because we're not going to be able to afford both. So out of those 2 ideas, do you prioritize one of those ideas higher? When I also said the champs, the extras champs teacher, specials teacher, that could be a specialty program, a signature program position. It could be that also.
I just have a. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Would they forget the discretion of the principal? How that position was used?
How it would be used, I would say, is the position of the principal, and our principals get feedback from their teachers of what they think is needed. So I would say it's in collaboration with their teachers. But yes, it wouldn't be directed by the district.
I was just wondering, do we know for 4 days next school year the minutes of a champs class?
The best that I could model it would be sticking with an 11-period day and 9 periods, which would be a 40-minute prep. So we go from 35 to 40. I did try to model it to get it to be a little bit longer, but it resulted in too many of the schools needing partial special area positions, and our special ed teachers, I tell you, they hate to travel. They hate to travel. And then when we get part-time positions, we never fill them, except for Mr. Bogart. He can always fill a half-time PE teacher. So it doesn't mean eliminate them altogether, but it had more of those. So I think in modeling it, it really is best to do it this way. So it'll be 40 minutes. So now between those two, we're going to eliminate one. We'll keep one to prioritize. I'll just go with the first one. Do you prefer the extra class period per week? Do you prefer that one over the whole extra teacher? And that one is the $290,000 versus the $406,000 one.
Okay, this is just an opinion. The cost of both of those is outrageously high comparatively to the other things that we have on the budget. So would I be correct in stating that if we move, let's just say we move line 9, the bold 9, 406,000 up, you get nothing else. Is my thinking correct here?
You get something else, but not much more. That becomes your most important thing because of the price tag. That is true.
I'm just wondering what the benefit to either, I mean, I know planning time, but I'm wondering what the benefit would be because I'm also, I mean, I know teacher planning. I don't want to say that's not a benefit, but my concern is the loss of Fridays. And then they're going to have another prep period that they're not in. I don't know. That's just
Too much
I wonder if
lost
it's worth it.
instructional time.
Yes.
Okay.
Depends on what or how you structure it. Like, for example, I know our school, we went to having this new computer thing for coding. And so I think has value to learning for students. So I think it just depends on how you structured it to holding it closer to an academic class versus it being a PE class.
Okay, I still haven't heard a proposal to either choose one or the other or to move one or the other in a different position. Natasha recommended moving them down, I think, because of the high cost. She didn't say where. Brittany has a recommendation.
I'll talk, you guys, go ahead. So when I was looking at this too, I thought, whew, that's a lot of money. If we had a lot of money, that would be great. And I understand the benefit and how it could be used, but I just think with all the changes that we're already going to face next year with switching to a 4-day and everything else and the need of our students, I think that I just feel like that's not at the top of our priority, and both of those should go down below the other things that we are looking at on here.
Okay, she's made a proposal. You have to say what you think about that. Okay. We're moving it down below line yellow?
Yeah, I just wondered where you wanted to move it before I had my opinion on it.
Let's move it way down because we're going to go back and look at the whole thing and see where you can still move around. We're just trying to get it kind of generally at the top, the middle, the bottom. I would also say I'm concerned about being able to hire additional beyond what we already need for growth. So I'm a little worried that if you said you had it, and we still wouldn't even be able to spend it if we couldn't find the people. It doesn't mean we won't, but it's a worry I have. Okay. Sarah?
Can I make a proposal?
Yes.
I propose line 23, the student services coordinator position gets moved up super high, maybe even right after athletic restoration.
Okay. So I'm going to say a little bit more about that. When you all evaluate and we had some extra positions, I talked to cabinet today and we said, we've got realities just like the budget committee does. There's not that much money to go around. So we have to think about how can we be smarter about the growth positions that are needed for the district, because we've grown 25% in an enrollment, in the last 4 years. So that means that our district office also is kind of bursting at the seams of being able to, keep up with more purchase orders, more HR, certainly a lot more HR. We feel like you hire 2 teachers for every one. So what they proposed was combining two of the positions that you saw previously. There was one for special education coordinator because of the high need we have for special education, the support that principals and teachers need with special education, the fact that we are in corrective action for special education because of noncompliance and need for training for our teachers and related staff so we can be in compliance. So there's big needs with special education. And we also have needs with all of kind of the student issues, the discipline, the classroom management, all the things that we're facing as a district of needing to have that improve and then have support here at the district office to handle the increase of issues that all bubble up. So their proposal is to combine, so we would basically shift our executive director to be solely responsible for special education, giving more energy and time to that position and free that position up with things related to student services. So that is a revised version. So the student services support coordinator position will provide support operationally with all of the discipline, all of those kinds of issues, but also frees up the executive director with all the other McKinney-Vento, foster care, counselors, nurses, health, all things COVID, all of that, going combined into one position. So that's what that is, and it eliminated another one that you saw on here that we won't be prioritizing today. Okay, so Sarah, you said up, but you have to say where. You need a mic.
Okay, let's say line 5, like row 5. What's
the actual spreadsheet 5?
Spreadsheet 5.
Okay, so let's scroll up so we can see what's 4, 5, and 6 up there and see what they think about that. Okay, 4, 5, and 6. So it would be the new 5, so it would come in after athletic restoration. Is that accurate, Sarah? Okay, placing it after athletic restoration. Is there support for that? Okay, I see you can live with it. Heather? Can live with it. Okay. All right. Well, we will place it there and we will see if it still lands there later. All right, so you can move that, Beth. How about another one? Pick one we haven't done yet. Pick one that you'd like to see moved. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to pick the Liberty instructional coach. So I'm trying to do the math in my head. So when we looked at the staffing we needed for special area and for new teaching positions, we placed in the budget in terms of the fixed cost already, kind of a tentative trying to move Liberty to at least, to 2.0 positions. It's really hard on kids to not get art, music, and PE, to only really get one specialty teacher. So when we did that, by doing that, that automatically frees the instructional coach up, and I'm not sure it actually has any cost associated with it. Does that make sense? So I'm thinking, I'll go back and check the thinking. I'll just really check our position control. But I think we've already accounted for that in our additional special area staffing, which we need to do for the override anyway, because we can't spend it on a lot of these other things, and we can't spend it on reading interventionists. We can't spend it on administrators. We have to spend it on override things. So I think that one actually becomes a 0, and it's really would already be taken care of. Does anybody have any heartache about that? Okay. So Beth, will you put in a 0? And then someplace not in the budget, the dollar column, put a question mark or highlight it so we know we have to put a comment in there so we can check on that to confirm. But I'm pretty confident that's going to 0 out. Okay, let's try another one. I did an easy one. I took a 0 cost one. Heather, you and me, we got 0 ones. We haven't done noon duty aids. I don't know what we call it on here, or that support one. I think that's another example of two that are real similar. Even if we had all the money in the world, we probably aren't going to be doing both of those. So you probably should prioritize one or the other.
If we prioritize the support liaison, just so that I'm clear on. If we prioritize the support liaison, just so I'm clear, that would be. Was that what Danae was talking about with like being a tech person, like cross-trained, but also able to help with lunch duties and other types of things to free up the people that should be in the classrooms?
Yes.
Okay, so then I want to prioritize that one.
Okay, so that's the bold 21 on your sheets. 22. So sorry. 22. So she's prioritizing that higher than the 21. And if we did that, then we wouldn't do the 21. Is that what you're saying, Brittany? Because we wouldn't be doing 22 and 21.
So, and 20, that's the same too, right?
Yes. 20, 21, and 22. So you kind of have to read your fine print there to see how many positions, how many hours of support, and you can see there's a pretty big difference in cost of how that would be modeled. So principals, you are responsible for building lunch supervision schedules. And if you got a little bit of ease, just a little bit of ease, what's that minimum amount that we could say from a dollar standpoint, just for a point of reference so we could understand these three better? So the 20 lunchtime duty aids says 2 aids, and I can't read the rest. How many? You have on your papers. Can you see how many hours? And the second one is the support liaison is 1 person, but it's a higher amount. And I think it's because they may have modeled that at a higher rate of pay, because as soon as they're doing tech support and things like that, that's more than the lunch duty aides would be modeled at our least expensive entry level support staff position. So it's modeled at a lower amount, perhaps.
Yeah, the support liaison
Yeah,
is a
good
little
point.
great.
So yes, you've got 3 to pick from. So can you read those on your papers? It'll say 20, 21, and 22. Which one do you prefer, or a variation?
So what you're proposing, am I understanding correctly? You're saying if we rolled in lunchtime duties into the support liaison's workload, then it's like getting 2 for 1.
It's getting 2 for 1. And you have to also look at how many hours of support you're actually getting by comparing them, right? Because it will be paid at a higher rate of pay. To her point, we might actually be able to hire somebody for it and keep them when it's a higher rate of pay. That always works.
Also an all-day position where the other 2 are only 4-hour shifts. Those are very hard to fill as well.
I can support the support liaison over the 2. I mean, I think at the end of the day, any help would be help. There's a lot of us who would still do lunch duties anyway, but it would be nice to take our SPED positions and our reading interventionists, in my opinion, off that. And then, the liaison could then help with other things around the campus too. So I think if I had to pick, I'm picking 22.
Concierge. Okay, did I hear a proposal? Sorry, I had a little timeout. Is there a proposal? Sarah, did you propose something?
22 up to eliminate 20.
Okay, so move 20 and 21 down, just down to like below a line of some sort for us to come back to later if we need to. And moving 22 up to spreadsheet row.
Somebody give me a number. I'm under instructional coach, I hear. Let's put that on the table.
Okay, moving it to under the instructional coach compensation. Any support for that?
Can we move it below the emergency long-term sub? That's the one that Stephanie, you were talking about, right? Yeah. I would propose moving it below.
Yeah, I think we could cut and paste emergency long-term sub down to the bottom. We'll still work on that, but that's not a budget interest. So does this still work then, Heather, to leave it where it was? Okay, show me support for after the instructional coach compensation, and this would be for the 22 support liaison. Thank you. Support liaison. Okay.
After what? I'm sorry?
Okay.
Expire this year, so we won't have them next year?
The permanent guest teachers, I think they expire next year. I think it's the last year of the ESSER grant. It doesn't mean that we, yeah. Yeah. We will evaluate our guest teacher budget area. And if it makes sense just to keep those people on coming out of that budget, if we, I don't know necessarily that means those would be easier to keep on than say reading interventionists as an example, because there's a budgeted line for that already in our budget. Okay. I just don't know if we're using so much more of it or less of it. I don't know the answer to that. Okay, so I just want to point out that we really have very little money overall to play with, about $500,000 of after the fixed costs go away from the 2,000 something dollars. Sorry, not $503, $503,000, a few zeros. So you can see, just how it's budgeting out now. You can see we are way negative. So all that means is anything above where you're prioritizing has the opportunity to be funded. Anything with a negative number isn't likely to be funded. So those things with big dollars.
Is there something wrong with that line right now, that budget line? Because it goes from 200, oh, did you fix it?
I fixed it, yeah.
I was like, hang on. Hang on. $1 million to
Okay, so I just want you to see that, and then now scroll down to where we have some negative numbers and some things that we haven't prioritized yet. I still want to get through the prioritization, but I want you to have that information when you see up on the screen live, so you are positioning where you're suggesting things get moved to or from. All right, what is left that we have not prioritized? And yes, please get some pizza. It's probably getting cold.
I have a question about the grounds position.
Where's that?
I do not think we have prioritized that.
So that must have been a new one coming in. I'm going to give this to Kevin and let him explain that interest.
Okay, so my interest on that, and I put it in late because I was kind of busy this whole time, but currently right now, and I talked to Jason a little bit ago about that, and it was shot down anyways. But anyways, I was proposing to increase the pay to $18 an hour due to I have no grounds people, and they've all left. And they all left because of money. And I've actually looked out to other districts to find out what they pay, and they pay a lot more than us. And I did reach out to see about getting one person to come back to Liberty that used to work here that makes $17.85 an hour for that same position. 5 years experience, but it would be nice to be able to do it, but I know we won't be able to do it.
All right, so I'm just seeing this, but let me respond. I would say right now we are outsourcing it. And when we outsource it, we wouldn't be able to bring one person. We'd have to be all or nothing. So you're right. It would have to be attractive enough that we'd be able to bring the whole crew back and then take that back on as a district. So what I could say, Kevin, that could support you, it's costing us $40,000 more to outsource it. We are getting a little better service, or not better service, you would have to say. So I won't, let's just not go in there, but so it's $40,000 more. You and team would have to decide for that budget, if we were to take that budget and change our compensation for our people with that additional budget, or an additional person or additional budget, I would say you already have that. That's already been budgeted for this year. So I'd say for a new year, you wouldn't need, unless you're thinking of more than $40,000 in that difference, then you wouldn't need a budget interest. Really, that's a department decision to go inside or outside within the same budget scope you already have as a department budget. Is that fair? Okay, so I got another 0 one. All right, so if you will, the cost there is 0, we'll move that down. And if you just add to the notes, Beth, department decision on whether to do third-party vendor or hire internally. That's a department decision to make. Okay, good? All right, give me another one. The
benefits.
All right, let's look at benefits.
Does that say $1 million? And then does that say $4 million? Yep. Okay.
Is that the answer right there?
I mean, that would be nice, though we're not rich, so we don't even have a budget.
Beth, are you able to confirm whether that's only the people? Well, I guess we don't know from employees whether they'd have family or not have family to want to take advantage of that. That's an unknown number. So it could come down from that, but it's still a pretty big number. All right. Does anybody disapprove of moving it all the way to the bottom? Okay, we're all in favor. You can move that one. All right, let's try that. The bold 26, let's look at that one. Can you find that one, Beth? The bold 26, their line 9 under. Okay, I put this one as a placeholder, not that I was trying to get you to do this more than something else. I just wanted you to have a dollar figure. So compensation, certainly an interest is how do we pay our staff more. This 1% is Beth, you can check my remembrance here. This 1% is inclusive of what it would take for 1% for all staff. But I also wanted you to know that in this original $503,088, I think it says, within that amount we're working with, we've already taken off the top a 2%, assuming you all wanted to give a minimum of a 2% salary increase for next year. Okay? So if you wanted to propose that it's actually a 3%, then we would be prioritizing this 1% higher or lower than some of these other budget interests. So let's play the game. So the 1% additional increase, does anybody want to move that from where it currently sits?
All right. I just think we have a hard time retaining and attracting people to our district because we don't pay as much as neighboring districts, or, we just don't pay as much. So, and there's not as much glitter. But maybe if we put on there like, oh, you're going to get paid for all your endorsements, and here, we gave a 3%, because that 2%, I appreciate it, but it's gone before it even comes because of, everything else that goes up as well. So it doesn't ever kind of really feel like a race. Hoping to break even. Okay, so I don't know. I would like to see it up, but I don't know where.
Okay, somebody else propose where?
Okay, I'm proposing we move it to the very top. But I have a question about bold line 2 and bold line 1.5. We have to make a decision on one of those because it's eating up. Thank
All right,
you.
let's do that. So she's proposing to move it to the top position. Do you support that? Okay, seeing all around support, you can move that, and we'll go back and do 1.5 and 2, the athletic restoration. And you know what? I think these dollar amounts are off. So no, I think these dollars amounts are off. I think A and B team, remember I said, I think that's actually $70,000. And I think this one is $40,000. Sorry, it went in the wrong direction.
70,000?
Yes, because what's not included in that 42,000 are all of the ref fees.
And A only is?
A only is my estimate. This was proposed today, so I don't have any backup for it, but I'm guessing it'd be about $40,000. Okay, so do you like A and B team or A team only? I want you to also consider our voters who passed the election, our kids, our capacity to have teachers who are willing to coach, and as you said, the time available to do it. Some principals had concerns about that. Mr. Bogart thought we could do it except for soccer. So, Connie, make a proposal. She's got a big bite of pizza.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see the restoration of the A and B teams. And the reason for that is because when I look at kids, I had a kid this year try out for a team and then didn't make the team. And he doesn't play club like everybody else does on our campus. So it really broke my heart to see that he didn't get an opportunity to play this year. And it kind of really opened my eyes to that whole purpose of having that B team. So.
Okay, so she's proposing that we keep the A and B. Tell us whether you support that or could live with it. And if you don't like that, I'll try it the other way around. With Mike.
That's bringing back. I'm sorry. That's also bringing back girls softball and the other sport that was cut, correct?
So it's basically, my understanding is it restores it to what it was last year is what Kendra proposed.
And I just want to make sure that I'm clear. That is kind of what our voters are expecting, right? Okay, so then, yes, I would support that.
Okay, so will you move our 1.5 down to the bottom? Okay, good. Thank you for that suggestion, Natasha. All right, I'm going to keep us moving. Keep eating pizza, stand up, take breaks, but I'm sorry, we're just got to keep going. Priority, and give us another budget interest. Crystal.
Why did you laugh at me? Well, okay, well, there's only one budget interest that is for business services. It's on line 25, if we're still in the right area. My proposal is to move that up. The reason being is right now we have a 0.25 position in business services. That's 10 hours a week. That's hardly anything. We can't hire somebody to fill that position, but we still need a person there. The proposal is to move it to a 0.5 so we could at least get somebody in and hire somebody to do the job and maybe help a little bit more. So I guess I propose moving that up. It's hard to tell where we're at, but maybe close to the support coordinator, not above it, but near it. And it doesn't cost very much money. That's the other thing. So making it line 6, I guess now. I hate seeing that we have that budget, but we just can't fill the position, so it's wasted.
So we have been looking at, we think that it's possible that we could decrease the department budget and potentially get that to full-time if it was, even if it wasn't 0.25, if we got 0.15 out of it. Am I right, Beth? If we could get 0.15 out of it with some department budget and the partial position, yeah, we might be able to get it to a full to actually be able to hire somebody. So I think what we're proposing is maybe just to be safe, change that to 0.2 instead of 0.25. So that'll bring down the cost, and we might be able to do it by piecing some things together. So just say if you have support for moving that below the student services coordinator position. Okay. All right. Move that there. All right. Do we have any more? Have we exhausted them all? The junior network one, I looked closer into that budget. We actually have been paying third party for those services. We think we can actually probably bring it in-house cheaper than paying what we've been paying out for it. So that would be really a departmental decision of how they're using their departmental budget. So I think we could bring that in-house. That's zero. So I think it comes off the budget interest and we can do the junior network that way. Okay. He gets a 0 today. Everybody gets a 0. Since when do we like zeros? Teachers, we don't really like zeros usually.
I think I might have missed this when I came late last week, but for the one for the lowering the threshold for qualifying for benefits, I was looking at that more of like also retaining people, but like if you're going and those hours are already being cut and you're possibly having your pay cut, but like you really need this job and it works for your schedule, it would, and you need the health benefits, I feel like that I could support that.
You are interpreting correctly. We were thinking about our support staff employees who'd be impacted by the 4-day week. And so typically they have to work 30 hours to get it. Jason's continuing to play with this in terms of work calendars and hours they would work to try to keep them as whole as possible. That was your interest. That was the 4-day committee's interest. Our administrators had that interest. I think our board had that interest. So it may be taken care of, or we don't have anybody that still needs to be taken care of in this way. And so that's another one that's really an example of not really sure how much that is, but we recognize it might have a cost associated with it. So we'll have to still clean this up even after, we conclude to say what that real dollar amount is. But to your point, Brittany, does somebody else, she's proposed it, does somebody else want to propose where that would go? And how much is assigned to it right now? It's not up on the screen right now. 44,000. That's a bigger number than I thought it would be. But I guess that's would be true because it's about $8,000 for benefits. But it's only the people really who were already getting benefits. Let me think about that. They were already getting benefits. Did we win another 0? We changed our, so it would impact anybody new hires that we did. So it also, here's where it does impact us. So if we do that, let's say it was a bus driver and we got them down to 27 hours, they still get they already had them. But now we might have a reading intervention para who was always working 27 hours and never got it. That's where potentially we might get somebody new.
28.75 hours a week, so they would go into earning benefits now. There's not that many. I think there's only maybe 4. That's like a 0.7.
Okay, I think we had to take back the 0. So it's probably that sounds like about 5 positions.
It is 5 positions. The question to Jason was, if we reduce it to 27 hours, how many of those people will now qualify for that? And it was 5 at $8,800.
Okay. All right. That's where we're at. Okay. Would somebody like to say where you would like to place it? Leave it where it is or move it up?
Well, the other teacher salary one isn't there anymore, right? That one should go down. And the other 0 ones should go
Maybe you could highlight in yellow all the ones we're no longer considering, and then scroll up so we could get above that so we can see the ones we're still considering.
So the ones we're not considering are down below everything?
Yeah, so just,
They're down below the,
oh, a big jump. Okay, then show us the ones we are considering.
so these are the ones we took out, these down here.
Okay.
One down.
We moved health benefits down.
Okay. And I think there were two other ones that we did.
And junior network administrator, we can move that one down.
What about the champs, I think?
We moved one of the champs. I've already forgotten which one.
I thought we moved 9 and 10 down. Yeah, we did. Extra specials teachers and extra champs, I thought both of those went down.
Okay. Yes, okay.
Well, why don't you put it for now at the bottom of all the ones we've been considering? And then let's go back to the top and look and see how it's shaking out. Is that okay? And if we come across any others we haven't prioritized. So now is the time we're going to really now pay attention to the budget remaining. So keep in mind this, our budget committee last year, they worked really hard to get the things they cared about the most above the line, right? Where it was a positive number. And what happened is the legislature came along and gave us more than 2%. And so it was, valuable to still understand other things that were below. So if we have the opportunity to still add those back in, we still can, right? We still have something we can do. So looking at the top, just kind of scroll down because you don't have this on your paper now. You can see where it starts dropping down by costs. Scroll so we can see spreadsheet 8, 9, and 10. Okay, that doesn't make sense that has that much budget left. That's not possible.
No, it jumped back up. Let me fix the formula.
Okay, scroll to the very top and let's just check the thinking on that to see if it works. We need to see rows 1 through 5 in the spreadsheet. Can you show 1 through 5 in the spreadsheet? There we go. Okay, and now can you fix the formula? Should just be able to drag it down and it'll fill in. Okay, here's my question for you. You've done a lot of work. Do we persevere here and keep going and try to finalize tonight with the wonderful cold pizza? Or do I schedule one more sometime early next week?
It can't be on Tuesday. It can't be on Monday or Wednesday. I thought we were staying until 6.
We can stay. I'm just trying to gauge the room, what kind of energy you have, and are we okay to persevere here? Okay, we're persevering. Christmas is coming, right? Woo! It looks like it's coming down. Okay. So you can see at the line 10 is about the point we lose money. So I just want you all to take a peek, scroll up so we can see 11 and down. And I'm just going to look to see if there's anything 11 and down that we're prioritizing higher than 10 or above. So is there anything, I see 13 showing. Is there anything below that? Just a second, let me make sure she's there. Can you scroll down, Beth, so we can see past row 13? Okay, so all of that. Is there anything in all of that that we prioritize up into the rows 1 through 10?
Could we talk about whether we want to add in the gifted EL reading endorsement above the reading interventionist for Blue? I know they have, a high need, but part of me is going, so do a couple other schools, and, I don't know what the committee feels about that compared to all the teachers getting the endorsement money.
I want to know what that impact would be then, because I do agree that we should be paid for what we're endorsed, but again, if they're not working with the students and a reading interventionist would be working with and impacting a large number of students, then I think that that's important for us to think about as well.
I heard a proposal. Heard another side of that. Does anybody agree with that proposal that we should all vote on it?
Okay, so I'm just thinking about the Rainbow Valley situation. So we moved the Liberty split position to Rainbow Valley. We could unmove it next year, so that it is supporting another campus, right? Based on the need. It goes where the need is because it's title to title. Or we could also take a split 0.5. I'm just using you as an example. Okay, Sarah. So we could take the split position and not make it split. I mean, I think there are options we could do with the staff that we currently have based on the needs. Just a suggestion. And then that, what is that? 29,000? You could zero out.
All right, that's a proposal.
I was just going to piggyback with the gifted and reading endorsements and so on and so forth. I was one of the people that was required to get my gifted endorsement. And so I know that, some of these were required of us to get them. And so we went out of our way to get that endorsement so that our district would have gifted teachers at every grade level, so on and so forth. So if you're asking them to get it and then just by circumstance, they're not any longer, and they jump through all the hoops to do that for us, I kind of feel like, I know there's a few teachers that have kind of grumbled about, well, it wasn't by my choice that I don't have the gifted kids. So I'm kind of wondering about that. As a necessity, we need them as a district, but by default, we're not using them because, of the position. So.
And I am kind of agreeing with both of you. So I'm okay with putting that over the other full-time RI as long as we can make it by need and by numbers. Just because, for example, right now, if we just think K3 at Blue, that's 18 teachers for one full-time RI versus Liberty that has, 5 teachers in one full-time RI. So just making it a little bit more equitable. But if that can happen, then that saves money and that solves a lot more things.
So our half pay paid for by Title I, half paid by M&O. We can't really mess with that without really having some major federal funding issues. But our ESSER funded positions, those were really intended, they were COVID relief dollars. And so they really should be going to the prioritization of where does that relief need, or where we've had the larger gaps. And if that is a two-factor consideration of enrollment and economically disadvantaged students, we could prioritize that kind of system to make that equitable of how we use our ESSER dollars. So I hear you're the one who put forward that budget interest. You're suggesting we make that 0, and that would be kind of a policy, policy is not the right word, but a prioritization of ESSER funds to be done differently. And Natasha understands that. Okay, and she supports that. She kind of half suggested it, or did suggest it. So if that, then we could push that one down to the bottom. And does that put the gifted EL reading endorsements in the place you wanted it to? Dave's nodding yes. He said, just move along, Lori, move along. Okay. All right, is there anything else below, I'm calling it below the line, that we are thinking we need to have some consideration for? Heather.
Hold on, Dr. Shasta.
Moving reading interventionists below.
We're moving bold line 11 down.
Okay.
Correct? Okay. Bold line.
Their line number that they have, they don't have access to our numbers, they're always changing. I need to give you something, an absolute number. Did I give you the wrong one?
No, I was waiting till we were done.
Okay, go ahead.
So if we're prioritizing bringing the sports A and B groups back, that, if I'm looking at that correctly, then the athletic director stipends are not being paid for now. That's below the line. And if we're bringing back all these sports, then I feel like we should compensate the teachers for their time, especially with a long day after school with their sports. And I think the administrators in the room might be better able to speak to this than myself.
So I agree with Heather. That's the one I would like to see go up. Again, I do not have to be at every single game. I am not the AD on my campus. I have somebody stipend for that. However, if it moved to me having to be the one that did that on top of having longer days, I don't know how I would do the events, the meetings and such. So I think that needs to go up.
Okay, so I'm going to clarify, or I can let Stephanie clarify what this really is. So schools that don't have an assistant principal, we have paid teachers or some other staff that get paid to be the athletic director. That's not in question. When we added assistant principals a couple of years back, we took away some of the administrative, principal couldn't do everything. So without having an assistant principal, the district stipended several administrative type responsibilities, and teachers earned a stipend to do those different things. When they have a full-time assistant principal, or even a part-time, they reduce some of those down. So as the budget savings occurred to no longer pay somebody else to do those administrative responsibilities, then it was shared between the assistant principal and principal. Stephanie, I'll let you make your own point.
I put it on there because being an AP, and I'm sure that Dave and Sarah, it's a beast of a job. I mean, when you're having a game day and you have to check, I wanted it to go back to a teacher that could put more time, because it takes a lot of my time out of when I'm supposed to be doing other things, is why I put it on there.
Okay. So this is going to impact the schools that have assistant principals, adding the athletic director stipend back. I am sorry, I'm forgetting what it is. Kendra, you might know. Is it $1,500?
By season, or it was. I don't know about this last year, but I can tell you, along with Stephanie, because I've done an athletic director, that it is, by the time you're checking physicals and you're doing paperwork and you're holding meetings and you're there for coaches and you're there all day for games, it's a long day. It's a lot.
And what?
For 1 year, and I passed it on.
And what will be different for our administrators this year versus next year if we're going back to adding more A, B, and B teams? That's going to double what they're experiencing right now. Okay, so
Do we have teachers that even want to do that position? Yes. You do?
if they get paid, and last year we had teachers that split it. So maybe each season, yes.
All right, so there's interest. Stephanie, or I don't forget who suggested we move it, or Lindsay, or Heather, I've already forgotten, I'm sorry. Somebody say where you were suggesting to move it, and then see if people agree with you, because now it starts to get a little dicier, right? It's a little tougher. Where would you move it?
Well, if we're moving that to, if we're moving that to all teachers get paid at each campus, does that change the dollar amount instead of that? So right now I see maybe after some math was done that it's above the line now.
That was because we removed the part-time 29,000 for the reading intervention.
Are you okay leaving it for now and see if there's anything else that's below the line?
So the support liaison,
Sarah, check on the stipend one too.
What stipend one?
Supposed to move the gifted reading endorsement stipend up?
Yes.
To where?
It was gonna go above the reading, but then we moved that. So it was below the 15 above the.
Here's something that could help if the governing board approves the pay increases to the 15-year on Monday. That goes away, so you could pretend like you had an additional $40,000. It won't be guaranteed, but
Then maybe we could go back to that other position that wasn't liaison, but it wasn't helping duties and whatnot, because that was right around the same age.
okay, so your gifted liaisons are there. Have we hit a negative number yet? I can't see. The negative number hits at the support liaisons. It's $110,000 short. If you gave it an additional $40,000, it's still going to be short, but it's okay. Here's the thing. We may find that we need one less teacher next year. Then, I just want to make sure you're happy with the prioritization. So if that $500 and something thousand changes, it could be less, it could be more, and we also don't know what the legislature is going to come back with. We don't know yet. Arizona State Retirement System, they put their percentages up and down, all those fixed costs for the district. This is so far from being an exact science here right now. It really is just your prioritization of what the things are. So do you have any other adjustments you would want to make? Kendra.
I'm just thinking and it's not going to put it above the line. I'm just thinking prioritization. But I feel as though if we are going to raise or go for raising the instructional coaches pay right behind that, the reading interventionist right behind that should be the instructional coaches, because if you're looking at a tiered system from teacher, reading intervention, instructional coach, assistant principal, if you close that gap, what's the incentive to continue up the ladder? So I feel like that should be moved behind that. And if we're going to really watch those steps and those tiers, then we need to align that as well.
They specifically move from where to where?
Move it from wherever it is, which is on line. Anybody see it? And then move it just right behind the reading intervention, which is currently on the 7.
And then our other raises across the board, so it's like, they're gonna get a 1% plus a 5%. Like the reading intervention is correct, am I correct in understanding that? Yes, so.
Are you proposing a different percentage?
There might be some say about that, like, well, then maybe instead of it being a set percentage, I don't want to be unfair to anybody or anything, but like maybe that would be a way to save a little bit of money as well. Like instead of it being an additional, I just moved something that I don't think I was supposed to move. How do I have access to that? There we go. Instead of saying like a 5% for whoever, then it's maybe a 4%. I don't know if that's really fair, but then, I mean, that might just be something that comes back from people looking at this and saying, well, you gave a 1% for everybody, and then you gave an additional 5% for this and an additional, there might be some pushback for that.
So did we decide yet where it's placed? And then can we have the conversation about whether we keep it at 5% or decrease the budget impact? So Kendra, you already said where it should move. Anybody need her to repeat that? Do you support Kendra's suggestion to move it? Okay, I see support for that. Now, Brittany has suggested to have perhaps a greater opportunity to have it be funded in the event that there's more money. And perhaps, you know, a deal with perhaps some equity issues or considerations. Moving from a 5% increase to a what number? What percent? Maybe from a 5% to a 4%.
For which position?
Go ahead, Sarah.
So when I was thinking about, excuse me, the different percentages, I thought of it as, yes, they would get the 1% as well, because with the 5%, you're elevating them off the salary schedule enough to motivate, you know, and then every year they'd still get, you know, their raise too. But if we put them down to 4, you know, then it's really not that big of a difference in a salary schedule. And then they can keep earning it over time, because we do want to create that. I mean, we can't make a, 20% jump, but to me, it really helped build the pipeline.
But it'd be like an 8%, right? Because we're all getting a 2% next year, and then an additional 1%, and then an additional 5%. Like, I understand what you're saying, but it would be like an 8% raise then. So, I mean, I want to switch positions, please. An 8% raise looks. That's the point, right? Yeah. But I guess the pushback, I just know from my school, the people that have sent me prioritization, like their interest and whatnot, they would just be like, how is that equitable? Like, I get that, but like, how is that equitable when it might support moving something else above the line?
Okay, and I can share a little bit about that too, because I am a higher paid teacher in our district, and when we get raises, sometimes people think that might be inequitable, but the fact that I've been a teacher for 30 years says a lot, and I'm still in the classroom, and so I should be compensated that way. And I hold a degree that could pull me out of this classroom right today. I don't want to leave the classroom. I love working with children. That's what I went to school for. So you also don't want to make it so that we're not keeping good staff inside classrooms either. I mean, they should be able to grow as well. Teachers are already underpaid. So it's a miracle that I didn't jump ship, over, 25 years ago to go into administration. No, I didn't do it for the money. I did it for the love of teaching kids. So I think it's really important to be careful when we say that, people have these things. I'm not getting those administrative jumps. I'm not. I'm getting teacher jumps. And so, but am I valued as a teacher to stay there? And I think that's important too.
Okay, so I hear 2 in agreement. So let's just try this out. So for that position, potentially making it a 4% increase instead of a 5% increase. Show me whether basically, if you say yes, you're going to 4%. If you say no, you'd be saying staying at a 5% as the budget was shown. So show me up for 4 or down for 5. We're talking about this one, and we can do that one next if you want to. Up if you want it to change to 4%, down if you want to keep it at 5%. Okay, we're up and down. Keep them and tell me if you could live with it at a 4%, or do we still have more conversation to do? Because otherwise we're split. You have to see.
I need to be able to see
The amount? The pipeline. Okay. All right, so Natasha, do you want to say anything more about this? Sound like you had a comment. I just want to make sure. Nope. Okay.
Because once again, I think all of those positions are super important and I want those people to be valued and recognized. But kind of talking like, you know, I am one of the higher paid, but there's nowhere for me to go in the pipeline. There's not a, like, you wouldn't hire, could I apply for coaching? But yeah, that's not my area of expertise. You don't want me working with kindergarten reading. Like, that's not, you know. So like, some of us, there's not a place for us to go. So that's just a question, kind of comment.
I do think the bigger, though, that we get, the more content expertise we're going to need. So we don't have some teachers that could go to a coordinator position yet, but I could see something like that in the future as we continue to grow that is more content specific, right? I mean, you watch me run around to all these different PLCs, like pretending like I can handle it, right? But I'm not giving each of you the attention that you need as an appropriate facilitator. So as we grow, I see that becoming an additional pipeline specific for content.
Does this work? It works. All right, so we're back to 4% was up. Some of you who were down shifted to I could live with it at 4%. And do we have any strong no's? We still really, really think it needs to be 5%. Does anybody still think it really needs to be 5%? Be brave if you're only one person. It's okay.
I mean, I think it does, but I'm on the I can live with it, but I don't love it. I'm going to live with it for the majority kind of thing.
And what is the savings it's going to give?
Right. What's 1%?
All right, let's try that. All right, what line are we on here? In the budget, the worksheet is line
6 black.
Okay, there we go.
So 1% of that is 800.
Oh, we haven't moved it up yet.
So
Right?
it
That's
shows
1% is 87. So that's $87. So it would put us under 7.6.
Well, okay, wait, do the math properly, people.
Right. Well, 87.5, right? I said 870 and Crystal told me no.
We're talking what are we talking 1%?
1%.
Okay. 1%. She's yep, 1%. You're right. You're right.
Good job.
Okay, I'm fine with it then.
Okay. So she's withdrawing it. Does anybody have any heartburn about withdrawing it?
But I will be clear when I speak about it, because they're not gonna look at the numbers, they're not gonna look at the amount.
About how much
They're
of-
gonna look at the percent and go, that's not fair, why are they getting that? You know what I mean? Like, that's gonna be good, so I'll be clear about it.
I also think, and maybe this isn't the place for it, but it's also meaning building about the difference in the positions and then the added, you know, they are expected to run professional development now, which we didn't before. They are expected to, you know, intervene at a tier 2 and tier 3 level and work with admin and work with teachers and coach teachers, which they weren't before. So maybe that is, you know, the kind of meaning that goes behind it for the teachers of, hey, it's 5% because they're expected to run PDs, you know.
Beth, will you check the how it was modeled? I don't think that looks right to me to have it be only that amount of money for that many people.
It looks like they're working in the reading interventionist cohort.
Is that what we're looking at, the reading intervention? Yes. It's, there's 17.
The average of $1,750.
A lot of us are paid through Title I.
So it's only half of each person's position. It's, yeah, because.
The other half is in title.
No budget.
Okay, I get it now. I get it.
So what about then the other position? Because we weren't only just talking about reading intervention, we were talking about instructional coach.
So were you wanting to pair those two in their position in the prioritization? So do you all agree with pairing them in the position in the and just say it's all or nothing? We either do it for both or we don't do it at all? When the money comes down to it, is what your recommendation is. Okay. Okay. Are there any remaining prioritizations either in below the line or above the line? Do you want to just see it from top to finish, top to start? Let's just see 4 at a time, Beth, starting at the very top.
We are at the top.
We're at the top.
Yes.
Okay. So we've got guest teacher rate of pay, 1% increase in addition to the 2% that we've set aside already.
I'm just gonna say, just because I mean, can we just put the 1% salary?
Yes, please.
Is there support for moving that to number 1? Everybody says. Okay. All right. So now that is. Okay. Then we have athletic restoration, student services coordinator position, business service specialist, increased pay for reading interventionists. Keep going down. Which one?
It was there, but I thought the instructional coach increase was right under it.
All right, do you want to try moving it there and just see how it's landing, see if you still like it there? Is she caught up with us yet? I wasn't watching. Did she catch up with us yet? I wasn't watching. Okay.
Instructional coach goes where with
Still,
reading
oh, you're not
interventionist?
in it.
Yes, right under reading.
You are? You change.
How's that?
And then we just removed that last one.
7 and 8. Let me go back up. There you go. Okay.
Okay, what do we have? Okay, those two.
The formula, but I like increasing money. Can we find a way to do that? Add more things and get more money? That would be nice. You know what? I need like a whole field. Maybe Liberty can start it.
Part of the program.
Teach all the kids. No.
You need support, Beth?
I just updated that. It's not what it shows on mine.
Just be able to do it and pull down.
Mm-hmm. It's right.
Hit refresh every now and then, if it's not showing up the same as yours.
Okay.
Okay, we have a little refresh. Survey says? No. Look at your row 3 in the worksheet. Did that fix it? Did that fix it? I just refreshed it.
Just needed to be refreshed.
No, it did not fix it. So if you just grab here this and pull down, Beth, from the 290 and just pull down, it should copy it all the way down.
Now we're looking right.
Yeah, that's a small number. Okay, scroll. Let's see what's below 8.
Okay. Are we treating the pay step increase to 15 as a possible 0?
I think it's a maybe. You can do anything you want to do, but I will tell you the governing board will do anything they want to do also.
And we won't know till Monday.
And we will not know till Monday.
Okay, so could we put it as like a, if they don't? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Put it as a 0?
No. What you can do is go, here it is. This next one is $10,000. You're $12,000 upside down. You're only short $2,000. I would say that's going to make it into a budget if we had that other $40,000, right? We're not going to be that close. So yes. So then you come down and you say, what is still left? So I think that's what I just want you to see. So scroll down so we can see 11, 12, and 13. And again, some of these are some small amounts. Those are really small amounts. We get even just the slightest fluctuation of more dollars or something, other savings someplace else. I just want to make sure you're happy with kind of the next 5 or 6, especially until you get a big one, to make sure, because that has potential for making it into a budget. Sarah?
And the governing board could also look at this and go, no, we want to do the bottom 5. You know, like they can, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You are providing recommendations to me, and I will make some recommendations to the governing board, and they have the authority to make the budget finalize.
It'd be really nice if that support is on.
Could make it in there. Okay. Well, I can say here is a zone of we really wish strongly. Okay, here's another option the governing board has. Another test I wanted you to see with our little bit of remaining time. So Sarah, I'm going to get your comment, and then I'm going to move you away from this document for a minute, and we're going to look at the other one just to do a test of our thinking. So go ahead, Sarah.
Could the support liaison stick in our heads for if we get enough growth and there's some extra money in the budget or the state does something fun, we know maybe that's where we want to head at each campus?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. So we'll have this kind of this zone of saying these are some next priorities, because the governing board doesn't necessarily have to get it all exactly right the same order as you, but it's really whatever gets above that line essentially gets out there. So I would want to now I want you to look going back to the top, and you can see the department school. Where it says budget category program, that's column H over here. So I just want you to say what this means. Remember, we have categories of our budget, and we try not to say, oh, we're just going to put all of our money in HR, and then we don't save enough money for anything else that our district needs. We have to be responsible about how those departments grow, how our overall instruction. So if I was to put an additional 5 or 6 teachers, because I want to even bring down class size even more, and if I change the instruction category of the budget now to 70% instead of 60% or 58%, I have literally taken it away from all these other program areas. So we just have to, I want to do a little test for the things that we are approving. The multi one, I can't really do that. What that means is that amount of dollars is going to be divided up by all those program areas in the budget, all the categories. So plant operations, instruction, administration, everybody's going to see a little bit of that cost broken out. So we'll ignore that one. This $10,000 goes to instruction. So when you look at our instruction budget, so here's how you're going to look at it. You'll now look at your colored piece of paper. In the very first program is instruction. There's a blue row with white type. That's going to tell you how much, don't go to it, Beth, because I want them to keep this one up here to talk from. So the blue line with white type. And then you skim down to the bottom of that group. There's kind of a yellow-orange, and that says, with the things that are listed there for instruction, this is how much money we've spent. This is the percentage of the budget that we were proposing we would spend, compared to, at the blue line, what is percent we had, estimated we would budget for this increase of dollars. So I don't think $10,000 here on guest teacher rate of pay is going to make that much difference, right? It's not going to change that percentage that wildly. So I'd say I wouldn't really worry about that. I would also say this restoration, here's an opportunity. We preserved, Beth, am I right? We preserved $70,000 in the fixed costs. So I actually think we got $70,000 more on the bottom line because we've got it in the fixed. Did you love that?
Yeah, because I'm really hoping we're getting that jack of all trades. That's what I'm
Yeah. So we knew we had to do that. We had to put some positions to growth, and we had to, it was your choice and your recommendation ultimately, but I've never been on one yet where you didn't want to at least give the 2% inflation to all staff. So those things we did cut off the top, and that got you down to $500,000. So I think this, and that's why it says override required. We added that language. So I actually think, put $70,000 here, put zero here for now for our conversation. There is a category in the budget farther down. You'll see a program area for extracurricular. I don't know if it says $70,000. We'll have to make it say $70,000, but it's built in there. Student services coordinator position, it's split between two programs. So there's about half in one spot, half in another. So what I'm asking you to look at right now, we didn't go through and put every single one of these budget interests in there, but what I'm going to be checking for, what I'm going to come back and do is to kind of check the balance of this is if putting, for example, like the business service specialist, that amount was in there, that was in there 2 years ago from our 5-year plan of saying where we needed to grow. So some of those positions are already there because we had kind of scoped out what we thought we would need, and that can inform a budget committee, but ultimately you all are recommending what you're going to recommend. The school board's going to recommend what they recommend, but that's why you see some of in there because we were already checking to say, shoot, do we even have enough money to support that in a 5-year model? So these start to balance out. The increased pay for reading interventionists, so that's going to hit at 1,000. So that's going to increase our percentage to instruction. Nobody is ever going to be upset about adding money to instruction, right? That's why we exist. What we'll have to watch for is, does it shortchange another program area too much? But if we can get this to balance, we got this to balance this way, there's a way to get it to balance on that sheet also. We'll just have to go back and work at it. Because we're going to put all of these things into this model. Because then we'll be able to show the board how does it balance out by program area. When I look at the work you just did, I go, wow, you put money to some positions to the classroom and money to instruction when you paid teachers more. That was more money to instruction. You put money to operations of the school district. You prioritize a broad range of things and how you just did this. So my look at this is, my prediction is it's going to play out pretty well when we plug it into the program areas to kind of check our thinking, all that together. So if we had more time together, I would come back and show you how did that work out. Is there any other fine tuning you you would do. Okay. So as I look through the, scroll up and see if I see any more that might stick out. The gifted endorsements, that's going to be money to, again, 1,000 instruction. Athletic director stipends. I'm not sure that's instruction, Beth, because I don't know they directly touch kids. That might actually come in as an administrative one, but we'll check on that one. Keep scrolling. And then we didn't do some of the wonderful things for math coaches or math interventionists, which would have been fabulous. Okay. So I think, you know, when I look at it with this in mind, I think it makes a lot of sense. I would also show you, just so you have an understanding of budget, we're approved for our new school, and that puts us upside down a little bit in the next year. It's pretty typical, you open a new school, to be upside down, and a lot of times what districts will do is use one-time funds to pay for it in that first year and or the second year. We modeled it out to see what would happen and how that would work. It evens out with budget to spare in the third year, but the first and second year, we would have to use one-time funds. So that will have to be a board consideration of how we and when we move forward with the new school authorization. But that doesn't impact us this year. The other thing that will impact us the following year is the hurt of losing ESSER funds. So we'll have two things that will hit us in the same year. And we thought losing overrides was hard. Opening a new school has extra positions, and it just doesn't, you just don't load kids in classes as efficiently, so it costs you more in teaching positions, even though you think it's just the same. And then the other thing is the loss of ESSER funds. So we will have some more work to do next year, but I always like the committee to see a little longer range of the health of our budget for our district and how we're trying to be smart about that. Okay. So I would like to, as we conclude here, I would like to just have you talk with the person next to you, the people at your table, about thoughts about our process, reflect on and kind of the outcome we have here, what we are recommending. And I just want to share out some of those thoughts that, you know, here at the end as we close out and we talk about next steps. I'll just talk just a minute and then I'll ask. So do you have any conversation with one another? Because I'm going to call in a couple people. Do you have an idea what you want to say? I would like for you to talk to the person next to you about the process we used today, the end results we got, and how that is, you know, can guide our next steps. So I just wanted you to talk with each other just for a minute, and then I'll make it safe for you all to share out some ideas. Okay, I'm gonna stop you just because we don't have a lot of time left. A couple people want to share out something that you said at your table about the process we used, anything we should learn from as we do this again in our next steps and next budget committee meetings, or anything else, anything you'd want me to share with the governing board.
I was just curious. We didn't go back to, we were going to look at anything that came in late. Did we go back to that? I think we skipped going back to anything that was on the thing that was coming in late. That's the only question I have, because I had several teachers ask me to bring something and put it on there, and I put it on there this morning. I was just curious. Okay. Well, the teachers were talking about how we had voted for the pay increase for $3,000 across the board for all teachers. And so then when they watched the board meeting recently, they questioned that everybody got a 6% raise, and that they were wondering why this certain section of teachers were not getting a pay increase that would be equate to that. So they were questioning, could this be a part of the budget? And I said, I am sure it could. So I brought it and I put it on there this morning as it came to me. And I put it on there this morning. So I was just curious if, like, what do I go back and tell them, I guess is my question.
Am I allowed to share one that I put on late too that wasn't on there? Okay, so I had a teacher come to me, and after she explained what she was saying, I was like, oh yeah. 504 coordinator, the stipend amount for that is very, very little for all of the work that they do and the meetings and the time and the effort. And with the consideration that an administrator needs to be there, and often then meetings have to be rescheduled, and that wastes everyone's time, that amount maybe could be a larger amount maybe. And she gave the example, and I know nothing about this, but she gave the example of, like, how much the sports make based on their stipend. So she's like, my position's all year long, whereas they're season to season, and I'm doing this continually. And she's like, I do it because I want to support the students and our staff, but it's a very, very, very tiny amount of money. And so she almost is like, why should she do it?
Okay, so let's see if we can address them, because we did tell you all that you could bring them if we had something else surface, because that was the whole idea, is to go back and get ideas. So forgive me if you were halfway out the door. If you need to go home because you get a hard stop, you go and we'll work it out. So I don't want to get off topic with our budget with kind of a fuller explanation of that, but I can tell you I would estimate. So let me just say, for the budget interest of our teachers and a salary compensation, we took the budget amount as if it was 6% in dollars. There were two ways it could have gone. If it went a flat rate, the people that were, let's say, across the continuum, 0 to 100, 0 to 50 people, 50% of the people would benefit more from a flat rate, and it benefits the start of the salary schedule. If you did it the other way as a 6% increase, it benefits more the other 50% on the higher end who make more money. So it's really just a philosophical decision. Both ways could be considered great. If you were to say her interest would be, how do you take the people at the halfway point and above who didn't benefit from even more money than just kind of like how all the other employee groups did? It would cost about $30,000. The impact would be we would be placing a higher percentage of dollars of our budget to that particular subgroup of the teacher population. At the end of the day, when we pay our teachers more, that's not really a problem. But just want you to know, in terms of equity amongst employee groups, and then within that employee group, that's what the teacher advisory group recommended. So the budget interest is, I don't know if it's the exact number, but I'm going to say it's $30,000. And so I think we have to really consider it of whether that would go above the line, and if so, where above the line. And I guess also below the line, where it would go. So if you propose that, would somebody propose where they would place that budget interest? And Beth, you're going to have to just create a blank line, $30,000. We'll fill in some of the content later. You can help with that as the sponsor. Where would that be placed?
Could you state the interest again, Connie? Would it be,
So I guess Lori did a great job of explaining the 50% of teachers that made less than 6% because of their dollar amount that they make. So there could be a difference of $30, but it could be as much as $1,500 according to our pay scale. Well, if you were just talking the additional, so I
Don't say how much. Let's just not say how much. We will get into that.
right. I think she
They got 6%. The 50% above, making sure they got 6%.
You would have to say how much, because we multiply that by 50.
It's
For the
not,
budget interest?
it's not equal, you know, I did the math roughly previously, it's about $30,000. So I'm just saying.
For the
let's use
impacted
that as the
employees.
target number. That's the budget interest with $30,000. Where would we, thank you.
Where would we place that?
And do you know about how many teachers that impacts? I think
Half.
50%.
Half. So half benefited the other way, the way it was done. Now it would give more to the other half. Does anybody have a recommendation? Does anybody want to see this budget interest go up? Connie, I don't think you're getting support.
Is this something we voted on? It's not that I don't support it, but I thought it was something that we either sent out a survey and then they decided like.
Teacher advisory group went back. They may have done it through survey. They may have done it from talking with people. And I would say that it wasn't like a landslide. It wasn't like 90-10 or 80-20. Christy, help me. Maybe it was like 58 something or 60 something. You know, it's kind of like it tipped the scale when they came back. They recommended to go this way. So that's the recommendation we took to the board. So we just recommended what the teacher advisory group recommended overall.
And so just clarifying too, though, I think what they're feeling is that if you were to do that survey and we have a higher percentage of teachers that benefits, they're going to vote that way, and they're going to win despite, because the break of the numbers of teachers, that it would benefit differently the other way. So I think that's where that came in play. And then the other position for this teacher was that not everybody was aware that 6% was even on the table. It was just,
we did
this
talk
or
with the
that.
group about 5%, is what we thought the amount was, and we
Right.
thought that was honestly the gift to give, is to put
Right.
every $1
Right.
available
So I think
to a salary increase for all staff.
Yeah, I think that's where they were coming
So
from. Is
this is a very viable option. So if you just have to say where you want this interest, because I want it to show up in the records afterwards. I have to say, where did you prioritize this budget interest? Where would you have me place? Will somebody make a motion of where do you think it should go?
I would make a motion that it would go above paying additional funding to anybody. So we're talking increasing pay for interventionists over and a top of 6%, correct? So they're going to get their 6% anyway, right? I'm just checking my thinking's correct. So if they're already getting 6%, but we've put it on here to give them more, right? For interventionists, 3,000, and then instructional coaches, it's 3,000 for them as well. Am I correct? Yeah. Okay, so they don't have additional salary schedules. I don't know. Okay, so they
just say
don't.
the position, say the spot.
So I'm thinking that since those would be in additional funding as well, it's somewhere between the 7 and 8.
Is there support to move it between 7 and 8?
Anywhere, like it could go between 8 and 9, or it could go above 7. Either way, those are my proposals.
You have to be clear.
Yeah, I would just propose that. Well, I would propose, okay, let's just do after 8.
Okay, after 8, do you support? And that is it's a dollar amount. I said of 30,000, so you'd see what would bump down or bump up. Here you go, Sarah.
Would those teachers be impacted by the step increase? I mean, I would assume that would cover most of them, correct? So would they be getting step increase or is step increase only for new hires?
So the wage schedule only comes into play when you're hired. After that, whatever amount you're at is the percentage of increases attached. So everybody is kind of on their own cell, if you will, and they get that percentage above. The only thing that changes from that is what you get for extra 15 hours or masters or that sort of thing, correct?
Which that only is going to impact those people that are coming in new, which also could cause a salary compaction issue possibly. No.
The way that it was done is so it's equivalent across the hiring and it's equivalent across the people. So if everybody just moves up by 3,000, the way it is right now, there is no compacting, and there's no compacting at the administrative level. We add the additional percentage to the top half of the teachers. We do, it's not a bad thing to pay them more, because frankly, we need to pay them all $100,000. But it does compact it with our starting administrators. Right now, our highest teacher daily rate of pay is the only two people in the district who makes more than the daily teacher's rate of pay are our assistant superintendents. So because they work 260 days versus, 180, 190 days. So there's more than one right way to do this. And the teacher advisory group struggled with it. The governing board struggled with it. Really, both sides are right. So you just have to say, what do you want it to be? And let's just get a budget interest at the pot. So she suggested it is between 8 and 9. Do you support that, or do you have an alternate? So I see one person voting. You all have to vote. You want to go home? If you want to go home, you have to vote. So you have to say, I support that moving to that spot. I could live with it. I don't support that. Okay. I've got mostly live with it, and I've got some that can't live with it. So somebody who can't live with it needs to say, is it because you don't like the idea at all, or is it because you just don't like the position, the spot she suggested? Is there an alternate proposal? Because we do need to find a spot in it for it.
For me, it was a spot piece, and I wonder if it's under support liaison.
Under support liaison, do you support that, live with it, or don't support that? Okay, I don't have any non-supports anymore. Connie, you just want to say one more thing?
So I'm just looking at it as the reason I guess I chose the pay step right in there is because you're talking about people coming in who are new versus honoring those that have been here for a while at this point. So I guess that's why I was suggesting the placement of there. And I find you'll want to keep those long-term employees, so.
So does anybody want to change what they voted on just now, after what she gave some more information? Okay, so I think we are in approval to move it after the support liaison. Okay. All right, we have one more, and it was, I'm sorry, what was it?
It was the 504 coordinator stipend to be higher.
Okay, 504 coordinator, it's $800 right now. I think it's $800 right now.
Was it this one, Brittany?
These are the things that she was saying. It's a year-long commitment you're supporting. So she was saying it's a year-long commitment. You're supporting not only all of the staff, but also additional staff that you bring on to be part of the team. Many students, you're also having to plan outside of any hours that you would be regularly working for that position. And then you depend on an administrator, hopefully, to come to those meetings and help move it along. If for whatever reason they're pulled somewhere else, then you have to reschedule. So it's happened a lot on our campus where she's had to do it several times to make our meetings work. So it just feels like a much more than anything else. Go ahead, Natasha. I know there's also,
It's CST, not 504.
oh yeah, thank you, CST, that's what I meant.
Thank you.
Sorry, not from mine. You don't have to have an administrator. In the handbook, it states it because she pulls it up every time when we have to make a decision.
It's an LEA rep that's not necessarily an administrator.
gave it.
Can I sign up, check it out?
I've already been in before for the Olympic online.
Okay, so do we have a solution that isn't a budget interest?
No, it's still just.
It's still $800. What's the amount that was proposed?
I don't know what the stipend is for sports, but it just seems like it should be something equitable for sports. If it was like a $1,200 stipend for sports, then it should be a $1,200 stipend for CSTs.
I absolutely agree. It is a ton of work, but I would also then put in EL and gifted and 504 because it's all work.
And we did kind of discuss that too, like.
We actually did talk about that, and I'm like, well, I don't know who. Then we went down to like, do you do more for one or the other? I don't know. And I wasn't sure. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to put it as the CST and then move from there because I wasn't sure I don't work with the other ones as much, but.
If they all do about the same, then yeah, I think it should be a flat rate of the stipend across the board for all of those positions.
So I will tell you, it's probably been 4 years since we.
Do they all make the same now?
They all make $800. It's all based on like an estimated number of hours times the rate of pay that we pay teachers, which is abysmally small. Like that was an interest that didn't come up. Like, what's the hourly rate? But right now we've got Project Momentum dollars. We're able to pay some other ways for more. But the stipends are all based on essentially I think that $20 or $18 an hour. And I think they get something connected to performance pay logging hours or something. I'm not sure about that part. But so I know it's related to that. It certainly is something that could come back and say, hey, we need to rethink that hourly rate, how much that is. But I do agree with Natasha that it would impact all those others from an equity standpoint. So if you just, wanted to say where you thought priority that would go, but it would be difficult for us to model that right now, without having gotten that one in advance. So let's list it down. We will still go back and figure out the money on it and say, hey, if you raised it by every $100, it would be this much money. And then at least the governing board could consider that. Is that okay? Does anybody here want us to prioritize it in a certain spot? You feel strongly, or you just like it to be a consideration? Do you want that a consideration above the line or below the line? Below the line. Okay. So we'll just prioritize that below the line. All right, you guys have done some hard work. Thank you. Can I just have a couple of comments here about process and next steps before you go? Just our experience here together, what we agreed to, how it went, what we could do better.
I think we need more time between the first. I think we need just a little bit more time to process and then go back to our schools and discuss, because I think that we could have pulled more out of our schools if we had more time to sit and talk with them. But I think that the process that we did today was important because, you're in your school and your position and what you think should happen. So it's nice to hear the say and the know of the district that we don't know a lot about certain things that happen.
One more?
I thought, I thought it was a great process. I've been more in corporate budgeting, and what I see here is exactly what we do. There's a lot of school terms. You guys throw them out just like it's nothing, but I did jot them down. And actually looked up a couple of them while we were going, just to understand, what is a 301. Okay, when you talked about that, but no, I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of this. And if there's anything I can do in the future, let me know. I know a few of you in here, but if you could just call out your schools. What school?
Blue Horizons.
Blue Horizons. Okay, I've not been to Blue Horizons. All right. Yeah, okay. I know. Yeah, I subbed for you before. Yeah. And West Star, right? Yeah. Rainbow Valley. All right, thank you.
All right, we're grateful for all of you. Next steps for the district is we'll fine tune anything else. We'll just check those numbers again, check the descriptions. We'll fine tune that. We'll be bringing it to the governing board in a study session in January. And then at that point is when they will do their final prioritization as well, or they may have some interest themselves. So Great work, and thank you. Big lift. Good night, everyone.